Oh dear, how many times have we had these conversations before, my friends? Whether to bomb or not to bomb. Iraq, Afghanistan, and now, to add to the list, Syria. Your views in just a moment. Let's get some people to prompt our conversation. Major General Tim Cross is a retired British Army officer, the most senior officer in charge of the aftermath of part of Iraq, served there a number of times and joins me now. But how comfortable are you, Major General? Because I think you and I have had this discussion before, and you will be more acutely aware than any of us that this is not a conventional army or force we are fighting against. It's like wrestling with vapours. They don't have many particular bases, so it's going to be damn tough to actually find them. Surely that is an enormous potential for problems.
It is, and you're right. It's a mixture of things. It's a mixture of just, terrorism. There's this inner core which is prepared to behead people and do all the terrible things that are happening. And I think you have to take them on militarily, in difficult ways, as you suggest. But that's the whole of the SciStar piece, the surveillance, the target acquisition, the reconnaissance, information gathering, electronic information, human intelligence, and so on. And that brings us into all sorts of other issues, which I know some people are uneasy about. But in the context of this, I think that's the key issue militarily. There is a conventional aspect to this. I don't think it's up to us, in inverted commas, the West, the UK, US, to put brigades or divisions on the ground. But we've been saying for some time that we have to get the regional powers to put together a coherent land campaign to regain territory. And the sadness is, and we have been having this debate now for a couple of years, the truth is that Iraq is not much further forward on that capability, and the other regional powers do not seem to be willing to engage with it.
I will leave it there, Major General. Thank you for your time as ever, sir. Major General Tim Cross, retired British Army officer, the most senior officer in charge of rebuilding of Iraq, and served several tours there. Listening, Nick Whitney, Senior Policy Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, former Chief Executive of the European Defence Agency. Are you supportive of what you've just heard? Good morning.
But what is not going to help it is just to carry on with the situation that's been running at the moment and then throw some bombs into the mix. That may make us feel better. It may make us demonstrate that we're, tough on defence. But actually, if we're interested in terrorism, if we're interested in the safety of the streets of Britain, this is exactly the thing not to do.
Nick Whitney, thank you. Senior Policy Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Sorry to cut you off. There's someone else I want to get to, and you're former Chief Executive of the European Defence Agency. We're listening to both those arguments. Lindsay German, convener of Stop the War Coalition. And you must be, a very good and long-standing friend of Jeremy Corbyn's. How difficult a position might he find himself in here? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Well, I think that really the shadow cabinet should take a little bit more recognition of the fact that Jeremy won a very, very sizable mandate, including on the position of opposing bombing and generally anti-war issues. And I think it's rather surprising that somebody like Lord Faulkner, who was very closely identified with Tony Blair and the move to go to war in Iraq, should be thinking that he should be encouraging more bombing. And I agree very much with much of what your previous speaker just said, that really this bombing, which is already going on, 20,000 bombs have been dropped by the Americans, British and their allies over the last year on Iraq and Syria. 40% of all British drone strikes are over, operations are over Syria, not over Iraq, which in itself hasn't been legitimised by Parliament. So this is just going to throw petrol onto the flames and make things even worse than they already are.
So I know it's not necessarily fall to you to solve it then, Lindsay German, but if we're not going to do that, what do we do? Are you also thinking perhaps getting the neighbouring countries to take more action?
Well, every war ends in negotiation. I know people don't like many of the parties involved. I know many people don't like Assad, but the truth is there could have been an agreement back in 2012. That is what should have happened then. We now see the catastrophe that has carried on because that didn't take place. And I think there has to be cooperation by the different actors in the region to defeat ISIS. ISIS is estimated to have 30,000 people in it. Now, that's the size of a kind of average football crowd, quite a small football crowd, actually. If you think about why do they get more support, they get more support because the Sunni populations, part of Iraq and Syria, don't like the people that they are fighting against, and therefore are willing to give them some support. And we have to look at this much more broadly and not
just
bomb every time.
Just lastly, Lindsay German, as someone who knows Mr. Corbyn well, a couple of things. How skilled is he at handling any splits that might appear in his shadow cabinet so soon? And is it correct that backing intervention would put some of the Labour MPs at odds with Corbyn, who's just ended his stint as chairman of the Stop the War Coalition?
Yes, I think backing intervention would definitely put them at odds. What I fear is that some of these people are deliberately backing intervention because they want to cause a split in the cabinet and in the Labour Party. I think it's highly irresponsible. They should remember the lessons of Iraq. They should remember how unpopular that made them and how popular it made people like Jeremy Corbyn, and they should think again.
Lindsay German, thank you. Always good speaking with the convener of Stop the War Coalition. Coming up, your views. This is incredible, isn't it now? Add to the list Iraq, Afghanistan and Syria. Your views on that.